Welcome to Global Topic Live. I'm Jim Kunkel.
And I'm Heidi Brooks.
Heidi, we have a great guest on today. We're going to be talking about corrosion programs and pipeline integrity management. I'm going to bring on Mike LaMont from TRC Companies.
Awesome.
Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Very good. Welcome to Global Topic. Hey, If you could do a favor, if you could introduce yourself and also cover what TRC Companies does in the industry.
Sure, my pleasure. So my name is Mike LaMont. I am the Director of Integrity Services at TRC. And TRC is a full services provider in terms of engineering consulting services. We have about 5,000 employees, maybe a little over right now. And, we service all the major industries, everything from infrastructure to environmental to pipeline safety. So what do I do? What's my role? My role is focused on primarily integrity management and regulatory compliance. So what does that mean? I've got a team of folks that work for me that are regulatory experts. They are integrity engineers and analysts, risk analysts, and certainly corrosion control is a big piece of that. So we've got a corrosion team as well.
Very good.
Sorry, Jim, I want to interrupt and say, Mike, I enjoy following you. You and a colleague of yours share some very informational pieces on your LinkedIn pages about the compliance regulatories.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a great platform from which we can share information and get information out very quickly.
Yeah.
I think back to the days before, we're old enough to remember before the internet, where it was you had to send stuff in the mail to get information out. So it's really cool to get information out that quickly.
Right.
Exactly. It's just amazing on how everything, you can either have a live stream like we're doing today. You can do video, instant mail, direct messaging. There's so many ways to get information out there and communicate. In that aspect too, Mike, you have a podcast. Could you talk a little bit about your podcast that you do?
Sure. Well, yeah, we TRC's got a podcast, and it's focused on really pipeline safety, and what the whole intent is to help inform the industry. And so we will have each podcast will be about a different, unique, kind of current hot topic in the industry. And I'll tell you, one of the most I guess the most interesting to operators that they talk to me about all the time is the inline inspection podcast that we do. It's actually called The Pig Pen, and my good friend Phil Tisabek supports me on it. And it's wonderfully educational. We had a young engineer write in and tell us, hey, these things are so great because I'm learning so much about my job. And that's a real issue right now as folks retire, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, I'm sure. But as the younger generation backfills these jobs, there's a real gap. And if one thing I've learned in pipeline integrity is that you never know everything.
So true.
And it's always, it's kind of fun to get interviewed for a change, because interviewing people, if you haven't done it, it's really actually difficult to do. You got to do your homework, you got to be prepared, and you always got to be thinking about that next question. So I'm excited to be on the other side of it for a change.
We're glad to have you. Mike, when we're really looking at, pipeline integrity management, it's not only dealing with the safety aspect. And, one of the big things is regarding public relations when there is a pipeline failure. Could you go in and talk a little bit about what can happen when there is a failure when it comes to public relations?
Yeah, Jim, that's a great question. So today we are in a very different environment. And like it or not, and if it's, you can debate whether it's justified or not, the public's perception of our industry is very, not favorable. Okay. And so that's a very real issue for us. And so in terms of managing integrity and having failures, it's not just something that we deal with and move on with anymore, because anything that we do failure wise, and it doesn't matter. It's kind of one of those things. So one of my good friends in the industry says, well, if we have a failure, it doesn't matter what we did. Everything we did and didn't do is wrong. And there you go, right? And so the public perception of pipeline operators is already largely pretty negative, and then the media magnifies that, certainly with coverage. And here's my take on it: is that we have to do better. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and that means taking an honest look at our programs and going, hey, where can we improve? Have we gotten into a funk with kind of drinking our own Kool-Aid and all of that with the same old? Do we need an outside set of eyes to look at our program, and how do we push ourselves? Well, we got to start raising the bar, and I think that if we don't, then we kind of default to giving the critics all the control, and really, unfortunately, I think that their narrative then is validated if we're not doing everything we can. I'm a firm believer that our industry is more than capable to rising to the occasion, and and sitting down in partnership with the public and going, hey, here's all the great things that we have done. Here's all the great things we are going to do. And we need to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Being proactive and being transparent on your failures, like you mentioned, and excuse me, contributing or being proactive on what the oil and gas industry and the pipeline integrity industry do in a positive way for us is very important, I think, nowadays. Not just to sit around and wait to have to respond to a public relations situation, but to be proactive.
Absolutely.
So the other aspect of the current state of the industry, a lot of oil that's moving around is still predominantly done by rail car. And when we look at pipelines, pipelines have an incredible ROI, and they also can provide a very good distribution of that oil across the United States, or in between even countries as well. Right. Pipeline integrity management is so critical to ROI. Could you really speak to that a little bit?
So let me unpackage that a little bit, Jim. So the first thing that you mentioned is rail, and our there's wonderful folks in the rail industry. But one thing that we have to point out is in terms of greenhouse gases and carbon emissions, pipelines have a much smaller footprint, about 70% less than moving product by rail. Okay. So I think that's something that we need to do a better job communicating that right now, especially, and because it's important that we look at these complex systems, and the globe, the environment is an incredibly complex system, and one thing that I caution us against doing is making a knee-jerk decision and ultimately doing more harm to the environment than good. So that's the first part of your comment. So addressing the second part is the ROI. Okay, we can look at that in two different ways. The first way is a little bit more short term. Okay, and that's, to me, it's all about risk management. Right. So if I'm a pipeline operator, I want to keep that product in the pipe. I don't want to have a failure, especially a catastrophic failure. Okay. We just talked about public perception. That's certainly one element of a catastrophic failure, but injury, fatalities, the lawsuits, and all the dollars quickly add up. If it's a hazardous liquids pipeline, you have the environmental impacts and the remediation. So the dollars very, very quickly add up, right? And I think that risk managers need to do a better job, and integrity risk managers need to do a better job at communicating, quantifying the risks, having that real empirical data to support their risk footprints, and presenting that to stakeholders within their organizations and going, hey, if we had a failure here, I don't just feel like it's going to be really bad. Here's the data that backs it up. And from there, then senior executives are in a better position to make informed decisions about, hey, we need to do a better job. We need to do a little bit more in terms of integrity. But absolutely, and a wise person once told me, and is told, the saying goes around the industry, you take care of the pipe, it'll take care of you. Well, that hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. We got to take care of the pipe. And even if in this complex economic environment where we're worried about quarterly earnings and those kinds of things, and it's hard to think about, well, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, okay, well, let's think about in the short term. Let's think about risk management. Let's think about what if we had a failure, and those things could have real consequences on the immediate horizon.
Well, I think, Jeff, you got a true believer here. He said, Mike's the man, way to go.
Hey, Jeff.
So you have your fans coming.
Yeah.
And early.
To what you really talked a lot about, it really kind of leads to that, the decreasing of the cost, the life cycle costs of the pipeline. And to your point where you said, you take care of the pipeline, it'll take care of you. Yeah. So when we look at these corrosion issues, we look at pipeline integrity management, it is so critical. And later on in our conversation, we're going to talk about the NACE impact study, and then talk about obviously the pyramid, and go through that as well. Heidi, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to you. I'm sure you have some really great questions for Mike as well.
Well, I mean, he of course has led into it perfectly. What actually is a corrosion management system, and how does it work?
Yeah. So excellent question. What is a corrosion management system? Well, here's the thing, is that it is not any different than any other management system. So we talk about today safety management systems. We've had 20 years of integrity management. We have environmental management systems. So it's basically not any different. What we need to do, and when we're talking about a management system, is understand that it's really designed to help us accomplish an objective or some goals. Okay, and in terms of the corrosion management system, obviously, steel's kind of a strange thing. When you put it in the ground in the form of a pipeline, it wants to go back to its natural state. It wants to release its energy. All the energy that we put into making that steel pipe wants to escape. And corrosion managers, it's our role to, hey, let's make sure that doesn't happen. And there's obviously many different techniques to help us prevent that steel from corroding or rusting, right? And so I would say that the corrosion management system is a holistic approach, okay, to managing our assets in a manner that really slows that process down to the extent possible. And there's some people that say, well, listen, you can completely stop corrosion. I think you can very much slow it down to where the impacts are negligible, and that pipeline should last 100 years plus in the ground if it's well managed. So but it's not just about that one pipeline, it's about all of our assets. And so this concept of a corrosion management system is a way that we go, okay, well, let's define what success looks like. Let's work towards that and develop excellent written process and procedures, and use technologies to help us get there.
So with that being said, what are some of the platforms and programs that you use, or some of us else in the corrosion industry use?
Yeah. So here's the thing: is I'm not a big off-the-shelf shopper. And maybe that says something about me personally. I like customized, right? And I've seen a lot of operators that, okay, well, I need this. Well, I'm going to go buy it. Well, I need this and I'm going to go buy it. And they kind of go buy off the shelf solutions, if you will. And so I think an effective management system starts with a real, it's kind of a cross section of what are you doing? What do you do? What works well? What doesn't work well? Where does information go? Where does data go? Who makes what decisions? And you got to map it out. And in the days, and hopefully they're coming back soon, where we can get in a room and do a whiteboard session. It's a spaghetti mess of, okay, we're doing our annual surveys. Here's where the data goes. Here's where it's stored. And I think that you got to define those things first before you go out and you buy things to plug in. And there's wonderful technologies out there today. There's a lot of, as we talked about, there's a lot of excellent information out there. But before you go out and buy something, I always like to say, hey, let's make an informed decision about what it is we really need. And if things are working well, let's not break those things, because sometimes that happens too. And that's an unintended consequence of going out and buying something that maybe doesn't best fit within your organization. And every company's different. Every single company. If that's something that I've learned over 20 years of working with pipeline operators, is every company's different. Every company has different goals, objectives. They have different processes and information flows in different ways. So wonderful question. And I would say my answer is customization is key before you start buying.
Jim, what do you think about that?
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, obviously, Mike is the expert in this, has the most experience with it. But amen to everything he's saying. It's just, it's getting this message out there, and I think this live stream helps in that process. Mike's podcast definitely helps in that process as well. So,
yeah, for sure. What are some of the benefits that you would see from a corrosion management system?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And if I'm an executive and an operator, and Heidi, you came to me and said, well, we need another management system, I would say, well, why? What is that gonna get me? And that's that's not a simple answer. I would say that the first thing I would say is that, hey, we have some improving to do. And in that vein of holding ourselves to a higher standard, while I think we do lots and lots of good things in the department, we can get better. And there's the way that we get better is we take a look and do what I just said, is what are our process flows? How do we do things? Who does them? When are they done? Where do outputs go? And we map all of that out, because if there's one thing that I've seen consistently in the industry, is we have a lot of great people that know what they're supposed to do. However, when it comes down to a written script by which we go out and do that work, that's an opportunity for improvement, right? And also taking it a step further is, what does that corrosion management system get you? I would say, well, one, we could finally have a documented system by which we do everything. So if a bunch of our retiree age folks walked out the door tomorrow, hey, we've developed and written down process by which we got as much out of their brains as we possibly could. And then two is that no longer is this a kind of a black box, okay, what are you going to need to budget for next year kind of thing, and then we just kind of give you a list of stuff. No, that should be very transparent as part of a corrosion management system, and the plan for the next 5 years, the next 10 years should be published and continually updated. And there shouldn't be surprises of, oh, we need to do this coding project or those types of things, because it's actually defined. So here's what I would say is that it gets you a roadmap. And I know the kids now, and my kids don't know quite how to use a map anymore, but you kind of have to know how to get to where you're going. And I would say that's the best analogy that I can think of, is that it gives you that roadmap of how to get there.
Yeah.
And it's again, the transparency, all levels of an organization can see it, understand it, and know where we're going.
And logging that data is very important. You had mentioned, I saw in my notes, all-in acceptance. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so, here's the thing is that if I'm a mid-level manager, okay, and I've been in that role in industry, it's really tough to get buy-in sometimes, because I was just telling the story earlier this morning when I would call people, the tone of their voice was, they knew my job and they were like, oh gosh, what does this guy want now? And so it's really hard to generate that positive momentum from mid-level management, okay? And that's why in safety management systems that there is a requirement, okay, that senior level executives are driving SMS, because they have the ability and the influence to be able to push that throughout the organization, okay? And you got to have that support to have success with any management system, whether it's an environmental management system, safety management systems, corrosion management systems. You have to have top-down support, and it's got to really be driven from the top, not the middle. Now, since you asked the question, Heidi, I'd like to tell a story real quick. Many years ago, a salesperson visited with me when I was in a kind of that mid-level regulatory role. And the guy said, Mike, you should really go into sales. And I'm thinking, well, I've never done sales before in my life. I mean, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you think about your role. All you do is sales. You're selling this regulatory stuff up the chain of command to your senior management. Here's why this is important. Here's why we have to do it. Here's where it says. And then you turn around and you sell your organization to regulators and auditors when they come in, and you make your company look good, as present it in the best possible light. And then you're going out to field stakeholders and you're selling it to them because you kind of need their buy-in to have a successful program. And I thought, that actually makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So it does take a sales job, and we do have to get better, at selling our success stories, whether it's in our own companies, our risk folks, our corrosion folks. We have to do a better job at telling our stories. And, a management system helps you do that, because you establish some goals and then you're tracking towards those goals. And that's a wonderful way to sell your successes.
That's a very good point.
Very good point. Mike, we had a question that came in here from a LinkedIn user regarding what wisdom really could you give to the new generation of asset integrity professionals, about building a great team as part of designing a great corrosion program?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And thank you for asking that question. Here's what I'll tell you is that this at the end of the day is a people business, and you have to have the ability to communicate, one, but maybe even more importantly, you have to have the ability to actively listen to what people are telling us. And we work in a field where there's a lot of brilliant folks. And in today's world, where our minds are going at 1,000 miles an hour, sometimes it's hard to actively listen. And so I would say, communication, and it's a two-way street, and it starts with active listening. And so to a young professional, people want to share with you, like the folks that have been doing it, they do want to share things with you to make things easier and better for you. The key is to really listen. That's my advice. Great question.
Good advice.
Definitely. So, Mike, let's go ahead and let's talk about, the one study, actually, the newer 2016 study, the NACE International Impact Study. I rely a lot on that. I know you rely a lot on that too, to really kind of, let's say, paint the image or to drive the message of how serious the challenge is globally, the corrosion is. In that impact study, you're talking about estimates back that go to 2016 that we're basing really off of 2013 US dollars of, $2.5 trillion in just annual corrosion damage.
Yeah.
The other aspect of that study was really, looking at if you implement corrosion mitigation, such as even the pipeline integrity management programs, and also employ current technologies, you could really see a savings of 15 to 35%, depending on what level you tackle the corrosion with, and really in savings, and to kind of help mitigate that. Can you talk a little bit about the technologies that are also available in addition to these integrity management programs?
Yeah. So, well, first, kind of backing up a little bit, Jim, the empirical data and the data that was provided in that study, to see it in print is eye-opening, doesn't do it justice, right? It's definitely something that gets our attention. And as I said, we all have to be better advocates for our business, whether it's internally within our organizations or externally with the public. And that data tells a story, and it's definitely a compelling story, saying, hey, here's how much we're spending worldwide on corrosion, and wow, okay, so what do we do about it, right? And you asked the question around technologies, and the thing is, wow, what an exciting time to be alive, because technologies are improving quicker than we can keep up with it. And there's a lot of advancements. And one of the challenges is that, our regulatory landscape often, it just isn't designed to keep up with technology the way that technology is advancing. And Jeff Weiss said hi, hey, Jeff, Jeff worked with the government for a while, and here's the thing with rulemaking: the process is slow, right? It's a slow process, so that's a challenge for us to get to keep up on the regulated or the regulator side with the technology. So what we're seeing is that operators are going to PHMSA and asking for special permits on the DOT jurisdictional pipe. They're going and saying, hey, here's the technology that I plan to use. Here's why I need to use it. Here's what we intend to do when we intend to do it. And I would say that the agency has been very favorable in working with operators and using the newer technologies. But to name any one or two things that say, okay, today, here are some groundbreaking things. I would date myself, and we quickly would. I know this will get played back, so I don't want to date it by saying, hey, here's what's great today. But it's constantly changing, and I would say, what an exciting thing for us, but also what a challenging thing for us, because we all have to stay very informed, because as a consumer of technologies, operators are inundated with, well, you need to use this and you need to use this and this is new. And that alone could be a full-time job for someone within a pipeline operator, keep up with all the new technology and the different techniques that are constantly improving.
Yeah. Now at the beginning of the stream, you talked about obviously the PR where you don't want to have a pipeline failure. It's a disaster when it comes to not only potentially loss of life and other damage, but also for public relations. The thing to look at for pipeline operators is when they're looking at these technologies and these implementation of programs and plans is that they have to look for ROI being more related to performance regarding the efficiency of the pipeline. There's no issues or challenges with it. Obviously, failures that can be a major impact as well. But the other aspect is you really need to have buy-in with the operator from the highest level, literally all the way down the ranks.
Yeah.
How is that? In the past, that was always a challenge. Is that still a challenge today, in your opinion?
I would say, well, again, every organization is different. Okay. And I would say some organizations today have definitely got a bit more of a progressive approach. And others, I think, still have some maturing to do. But, listen, here's the deal. No one's going to do it for us. Okay. And I think it's unfair to put the blame on perhaps people over us or all that. I say, well, we have to be better salespeople and we have to be better advocates for integrity management, corrosion management. And we have to do a better job of positioning the benefits. And again, one of the great things about a management system is you establish goals and you start down the road, and you're not going to see results in a week. You're not going to see really anything in 2 weeks, but over the course of 12 months, you're going to have some data, and you're going to go, hey, here's where we set off to go, and here's how far we got. And that becomes really compelling information for an executive level person that really is needing to see that, to go, oh, okay, yeah, this is why we're doing this. So again, we have to be better stewards and better advocates, and that means comes back to the being a better communicator, right?
Definitely, and for me, the aspect of it's the communication, but also the visual. And what I'd like to bring up is, when we're talking about with corrosion management, the NACE impact study, had this great graphic when it came to the corrosion management system pyramid. As much as we work on, the procedures and industry best practice and everything like that, there's plans that exist out there. But a lot of the area I think that you and I kind of focus on is going to be in the enablers, the controls, and the measures. Now, you might go a little further up on that top of that pyramid, and it sounds like in the past you dealt a lot with the policy aspect of it too. But I think this particular graphic is very important for operator executives. When they really look at this is why you want to look at a coordinated approach to your strategy when it comes to your integrity management of your pipelines, and to look at, again, the qualification of contractors that do the work, through anything from risk management, really training and development, bringing in the right professionals as staff to be able to manage these programs. Is there anything in addition to this, with this particular graphic that you would like to add?
Yeah, and so that's what a wonderful visual that is, right? And starting at the top with policy and moving all the way down through plans and procedures. The only thing that it doesn't really illustrate effectively for us is I would put some arrows between each of those little pieces, because we got to communicate policy from the very top of the pyramid, and then strategy and objectives. And we get all the way down to procedure and working practices. Well, guess what? The folks that are implementing the work, they'll find oftentimes, this procedure says this, it's really better if we do that. And they need an ability to give that feedback back up into that pyramid so we can continually improve our processes and procedures. But yeah, that's absolutely a wonderful diagram. I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point. I would adding communication to that diagram.
Yeah. And that's again, we are highly, we work in a field with highly technical people. And I think if there's one thing that is not emphasized enough, it is that ability to effectively communicate, right? And leaders need to go, hey, here's where we're going. And that layer below that's like, okay, well, here's how we're going to do it, and here's the resources to do it, and the people that are implementing work need to be able to go, wait, time out, understand where we want to go, but what you've put together here doesn't quite get us there. And that's how you have a effective management system, is that ability to openly communicate with the entire organization.
So, when you talk about communication, obviously you have a podcast that you do. Heidi and I, we do live stream here on Global Topic Live, and part of it is really, speaking directly to the different industries that we do service. And in most cases, we do cross over a lot. What advice do you have for a professional who would want to create a podcast, or maybe start live streaming, or create a YouTube channel, or whatever related to topics of the industry?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And here's the thing is, today there's so many opportunities to positively influence our industries and our communities. And unfortunately, that doesn't come from the standard social media, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we have a responsibility to for those of us that have been doing this for a while to help out the next generation. I think that's, to me, critical, right? And for folks that are kind of like would like to do a podcast or webinars or those kinds of things, I'll tell you, it's not a natural act speaking to a camera. It is very unnatural and very uncomfortable when you start off doing it, right?
Yeah.
So people go, I don't want to do that. And then if you're not the best public speaker and you're like, getting up in front of a crowd is not my thing. Here's the deal. Advice, especially for the younger generation right now, is do it. Just do it. And the only way that we get better is we spend time with the things that we're not comfortable doing. Okay. And if that means public speaking, that means, when we come back from COVID, or when you're presenting, if you have an opportunity at work to present via Teams or Skype or whatever, say, hey, I'd like to do that, because it's just like anything else. The more that we do it, the better we get at it. And, I think that, unfortunately, fear wins out most of the time, and people go, it's scary. I don't want to do it. I don't want to push myself. But there's so much satisfaction that comes with actually doing it, trying it, and it's really great to be. And we're not in person at conferences, but people come up to you and go, "Hey, I really liked that episode where you talked about." It's really rewarding. And here's what I'd like to say is that, to me, if I can inspire someone to be better, then what a great day, and what a great thing that is.
Well said. I absolutely agree with that. And for me, if you look at my earlier videos that I did, I'm really, really, really poor and everything like that when it came to skill and ability. I've improved, obviously, since I started over a year ago. But, the thing that I find about it is, even today, I get direct messages. I'm getting direct messages right now from our conversation. Some people are shy. They don't want to comment or ask questions on the live stream. That's fine. But I've actually had someone say to me, hey, listen, one of your videos that you did regarding NSF 600, you did 3 videos. I shared that with a contact I had in a water waste or in a water district, and just to try to help educate them regarding what's coming up regarding this regulation. But it's really great to have people coming back to you saying, I really appreciate what you do. And the other thing too is when they share your content, and I'm interviewing people, I'm not providing people, do this, do that, do this, do that. I'm not giving them instructions or anything like that. But if anything I can't provide them to help either educate them on a topic or help them go down a certain pathway, but also too, on some of them to inspire them to want to do what I'm doing. Because in our industry, corrosion and coatings, we need more professionals out there really talking, because we're having an age issue now where we're not attracting a younger generation. And I'm sure, I don't know, maybe you did grow up when you were a child and said, I'm going to work in corrosion. I know I didn't.
I don't think anybody did that.
Yeah. And so, you have encouraging things out there, like, University of Akron. There are some universities out there and some global educational programs related to corrosion management.
Today there are,
we need to do a lot more. And you as an advocate out there, I really appreciate the message that you're really giving to the industry, both on the serious topic regarding, integrity, asset integrity, regardless if it's a pipeline or whatever, corrosion mitigation, management, and things like that, but also to showing how much fun you can have in the industry to the younger generation. So I commend you for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think that every day is an opportunity for us, and there's no time like today. So, if you're not good at something, if you're not good at technical writing, you're not good at public speaking, and, work on it. And the more that you face those things that you're not good at, you'll look up one day and you'll go, hey, I'm actually okay at it. I'm confident at it. And I think back to the days of organic chemistry in undergrad, where I didn't want to. I was like, okay, I'll work on this and I'll work on that and I'll do my organic chemistry last. Well, that was the wrong way to approach that. I should have been going, you know what, I'm not good at this and I don't like it. I need to really attack it and dive in.
It's so true. One theme that I noticed after listening both of you talk about inspiring others and in the younger generation of integrity management was connect. What you guys are doing is providing a way to connect. And it's important for those that are watching to not, even if they're not good at it, like you had mentioned, they can practice, but the bottom line is to do it. Just do it. You want to connect, you need to connect. And if that's in a vulnerable way because you aren't that controlled and ready to go or good, then sometimes you connect even more. So it's just really important to do it.
Can we claim that? Can we claim just do it?
I think we should. I think we should. Heidi, I think that there's so many unhappy young adults today, and you think about why that is, and the world is certainly a complex place and a very challenging environment, and we're a little older and grew up at a different time, but I think that with things like social media, and I say kids, right? The younger folks, there is a unrealistic expectation of excellence right out of the box.
For sure.
And what I'm here to kind of say is, well, you know what? None of us got here overnight. We all worked very hard for a long time. And we took on things that we weren't good at, and we got better and we got better. And so don't expect that because, and you look at social media and the media and everyone today you would think is perfect. Well, I am not perfect. I will never be perfect, but hey, we all try, right? And so don't have that unrealistic expectation. And you know what feels great is working on something you're not good at. in a little bit at a time. And so, for the younger folks that are out there that are struggling, hey, it's okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. You gotta work at it. You gotta start, and you should start today.
Connect and think outside of the box. I think Jim likes me co-hosting because I always feed him compliments. But one of the reasons I'm committed to this and enjoy doing it is it's a outside of the box way to learn. For me to learn, who's only been in the industry a couple of years, it makes me, focus. I enjoy it, so you learn more, and it's just thinking outside of the box on how you can, whatever you're going through, positive, negative. During this COVID situation, just to connect, I think is very important.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mike, we'll have to wait to see if you're going to start doing TikTok videos.
Maybe my daughter's been trying to push me down that route there. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Mike, thank you so much. What a great conversation we had, not only about the technical topic we talked about, but also talking about, again, how professionals in our industries, coatings and corrosion, can get involved and really make an impact. That's the important thing. I thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure to visit with both of you. You guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing. Love the platform and the messaging that you're getting out there. Wonderful service to the industry. So keep doing your thing, and have me back. I'd love to talk to you some more.
Definitely. So, Heidi, do you want to talk a little bit about Thursday's stream?
Oh, wow. It's Mike, it was definitely a pleasure to have you, and I was really looking forward to it. So thank you again for coming on. Absolutely. Thursday, we have Women of Corrosion. So we have, I think, 6 guests.
So yeah, we have 5 right now, but we're going to be celebrating women in the coating or corrosion and coatings industry, and we have a panel, a global panel actually, and it's going to be a very great discussion that we're going to have with everybody. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see, we had another message come up here. Great talk and learned a lot. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. It's important. So, again, with that, I guess we'll see everybody here on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or I'm sorry, actually it's Eastern Daylight Time now with the time change here recently. And Mike, thank you so much. Heidi, thank you again.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, everybody have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.